It's showtime!
I was born with cerebral palsy, a non-progressive condition that affects the part of the brain that handles the limbs and fine motor functions. This condition has rendered me unable to talk or walk, confining me to a wheelchair. In addition, I only have full use of my right arm, with the dexterity of my left hand probably being about 25% of my right. What caused my CP is unknown to me, because I was adopted from South Korea at 14 months. First and foremost, I am a gamer and have been since around the age of 8. Back then the games were simple, so playing one-handed was relatively easy. Growing up on the Nintendo Entertainment System, I tried a number of controllers, from the standard one to a flight stick. The latter I ended up sticking with until my NES finally died. A few years later, I got a Game Boy for Christmas. In the beginning, learning how to play it was difficult, having not spent much time with the standard NES controller. But after a while I figured out to turn it sideways on a table or my lap, so the directional pad was towards my stomach and the A and B buttons were towards my knee. I would use the D-pad with my thumb and press A, and B with my index finger or middle finger. This technique has stayed with me ever since. Regardless of whether it's console or handheld, it's the way I play. I've had to make a few changes to adapt to the ever-evolving button layouts, but the basic positioning stays the same. Playing certain games one-handed can be challenging, and there are some games that I cannot play, but I'm always up for a good challenge. It's part of what makes me, or anyone else, a gamer. I've always received strange looks from my peers, but that has never stopped me from playing games. While the NES era was by far the most level era in terms of gameplay, these recent generations have given me the most enjoyment and challenges. As the gameplay evolved, so did the controllers. They went from just a directional pad with 2 buttons, to a D-pad with 8 buttons, 2 analog sticks and a touchpad. Adapting my technique to each style of controller has been a unique challenge. Sometimes, I'm still a little surprised at the fact of my being a one-handed, physically challenged gamer amazes people. When I go out, such as to an arcade, people look down on me. It's like me being in a wheelchair automatically makes me a bad gamer. But once they see what I can do, they're left in awe. In my mind, I've never been any different from other gamers. Being a physically challenged one, though, has forced me to acknowledge my limitations with games as far as genres go. I try to stay away from the ones that I can't play. But the genres I can play, I go full throttle into. Up until recently, I've played predominantly role-playing games, with some focus on fighters. However, with the inclusion of online multiplayer and other networking features in games and consoles, I've been able to try different titles and genres. One example of a genre I have difficulty playing is shooters. Mass Effect is in this genre, and I had trouble playing it, due to the controls on consoles being too complicated for one-handed gaming. When you need to hold the controller a certain way, it causes problems when needing to reach some buttons. This has largely gone by the wayside, however, thanks to the recent inclusion of system-level button remapping on the PlayStation 4. This feature allows players to remap buttons on the system itself, rather in a specific game, which effectively lets you bypass or overwrite the game's limited customization options. The inclusion of online multiplayer in some games has been a huge help to me. Being confined to a wheelchair greatly hinders my ability to go out and hang out with my friends, but with online functionality becoming more prominent in games, I can meet in-game with my friends and sometimes even complete strangers over the internet. I know that online gaming isn't the same as gaming in the same room with my friends, due to the lag or delay, but just being able to interact with people on any level in a game is an amazing experience. I'd like to point out that anything online for any challenged person is a great asset. In real life, when people look at me, they automatically think that I'm not on the same level as they are, and then treat me as if I came from a special education class. However, online play is vastly different. Online I can communicate easily and no one is the wiser that I'm in a wheelchair. They don't have those preconceived first impressions that are so valuable in the world. Online I can truly communicate the way that I need to. Much like girl gamers before us, challenged gamers are becoming a larger part of the gaming community. My overall goal is, and has always been, to show people that just because we're quote-unquote disabled, does not mean a thing. We can game just as good as, if not better than the next guy.